the taller I become. The further you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can't deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter, there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. There's something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. The more you refuse to hear my voice, the louder I will sing. You hide behind walls of Jericho, your lies will come tumbling. Deny my place in time, you squander wealth that's mine. My light will shine so brightly, it will blind you. 'Cause there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. There's something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. Brothers and sisters, when they insist we're just not good enough, when we know better, just look them in the eye and say, we're gonna do it anyway. 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 Something inside so strong. You know that I will make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Something inside so strong, so strong, and you know it will. You know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone, yeah. Something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. It will always be something inside so strong. Something inside so strong.
Well, hello and welcome to another Wednesday evening here at Restore Live. Restore Live going out into the Restore UK channel, that's on Facebook, also to the British Unionist People's Voice, and to the Restore UK channel, that's on YouTube. So what I would like to do is I would like to ask each and every one of you to, I mean, if you're not on our YouTube channel, if you would like to also, at the end of this stream, to go over to YouTube and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be doing some more on YouTube, and we're going to be trying to build that channel up. Well, this evening, what we're here for this evening is we're here to talk to a young man that has put himself forward as a candidate in the Upper Bann area for the TUV. That's a young man called Darrin Foster. And, you know, I heard Darrin last week in a little video, whenever that he was addressing a crowd at a rally in Portadown, in an Orange Hall in Portadown. And, you know, for this young man to be so young, I would say that if you haven't heard him before, well, you're in for, I'm going to say, a pleasant surprise in terms of the type of people that is coming up through British unionism today, and the type of people that wants to actually stand up for their country. And, you know, whenever we played that song at the start, something inside so strong. Well, you know, whenever I heard that speech from Darrin last week at the Portadown Orange Hall, now I wasn't there myself, I just seen a copy of the speech, and we're going to let you hear that very shortly. But whenever I heard that speech, that's exactly what I thought. You know, here's a young man with something inside that is very, very passionate about what he believes in. You know, what he has grown to believe in, his history, his heritage, his culture, his place in the United Kingdom, and the very fact that he's a British man living in Northern Ireland. And who said that there's not young people that is following in the footsteps of all those down throughout the last 100 years, who's walked in the shoes of trying to protect Northern Ireland, trying to ensure that Northern Ireland would stay a place within the United Kingdom, and trying to ensure that those who wish to destabilise us, well, they wouldn't have their evil way. And I'm going to say that you're in for a very good surprise whenever you hear young Darrin speaking. So without any further ado, what I would like to do this evening is I would like to bring Darrin in, and I would like to basically start by asking him just a few questions really about himself. So I'd like for you to welcome Darrin on screen. And if you just bear with me for a second, Darrin, I don't know what's wrong with that Irish Sea border thing in the background there. I will change that as we go, and we'll hopefully get this rectified. So just bear with me. I honestly, I don't know what's happening with that. So here, let's just change and we'll see. There we go. There's another background. So Darrin, what I would like to do is I would like to start off by asking you, I mean, you're a young man. You know, I just want to know, Darrin, what age would you be? And if you could just explain to the live chat, what is it that has driven you to put yourself forward as a candidate in the up-and-coming Assembly elections in May in Northern Ireland? So over to you, Darrin. Take as long as you like.
Thanks very much, John. Thanks for inviting me on to speak to everyone tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm 26 years old. So I am the Upper Bann TUV candidate. So that covers sort of Portadown, Craigavon, Lurgan, Banbridge area. I own a small business in Portadown. I live just outside it with my wife, just in the Birches, if you've ever heard of that. So what has driven me to put myself forward is, I suppose, endless concessions to Sinn Fein by the current political unionist leadership. So I think it's about time that we all just took a stand and stood up to Sinn Fein and the Republican movement and told them enough's enough. It's time for us to take over and show them what's what, you know.
And Darrin, I mean, if I could just ask you, okay, so 26 years of age, you live, that's the Portadown area, the Birches that you're speaking about. And, you know, obviously you've grown up in that area for most of your life. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Or all of your life?
Well, I used to live in Derrylee, so that's just a wee bit further out in the countryside there. But then I got married and moved to the Birches a wee bit closer to Portadown.
Right. Okay. So, Darrin, I mean, taking you back a wee bit, your earliest recollection of you becoming involved in looking at politics. Could you just take us back and tell us where that politics actually started for you?
Well, I suppose I've always been interested in politics. I grew up coming through bands. I was in, some local bands, and then as I got older and was able to drive, I joined some of the bands that were more far away and a wee bit bigger. So I've always been interested, actually. And when I was in P7, I think we had to do an essay about someone that inspired you. So I chose Edward Carson in P7 for that. And I suppose I've always been interested. My dad was sort of involved in politics a wee bit, and it's just in me, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, growing up as a young man, your earliest recollection would be, you said there sort of primary school. Introduction into politics.
I remember, obviously growing up just outside Portadown, I was a wee bit young for it, but I remember being on my dad's shoulders at Drumcree. So going back even as far as that, it's just something that I've grown up with my whole life.
Yeah. And if I could just ask you, you mentioned Drumcree there, but again, as a young man, how did you visualize Drumcree? What did you think that was all about? And just be open and honest.
Oh, well, I suppose it was just, I didn't really understand maybe a whole lot about it, but it was, these people weren't allowed to walk down a road from a church service, and I suppose I didn't really understand why. I didn't know the difference. Well, I suppose I did know the difference between, Protestant, Catholic, and whatever, but I couldn't understand why these people weren't allowed to just pray at home from their church service.
Yeah. And coming down from Drumcree, it was a short road, and it did actually go through what was known as a nationalist or a Republican area. But right around Northern Ireland and around that time, there was a concerted effort by Republicans. Remembering the words of actually Gerry Adams, whenever he would have said that what would have happened in terms of and this is me paraphrasing, what would have happened in terms of the marching bands and the very fact that they're being stopped here, there, and everywhere. Well, it wasn't by coincidence, because it was actually part of a Republican, I will call it a piece by piece process, in where that they wanted to actually attack almost everything in Northern Ireland. Darrin, if I could just play you a little video. We come prepared here in Northern Ireland. Now, we didn't mean to do this, but just because of what you had said, I would like to just play you a little clip from the late Bobby Storey, just for a bit of context, to allow you to hear what it was that Republicans were doing, are doing, and will continue to do, and will continue on beyond to continue on to do, should I say. So I want to play Bobby's story, and I want you to listen very, very carefully to what it was that Bobby Storey had said with reference who that it was the Republican movement were targeting and attacking, and as per their strategy, who that it is that they continue to attack. And then what I want you to do, Darrin, is that whenever we come back off the back of this little video clip, I would like for you to comment on what it is that you've just seen.
We have taken a lot of big initiatives and a lot of big moves in the last couple of years. We have attacked the Orange State. Whatever we think about policing them, we all think different things. The RUC are destroyed. The Orange Order are in their backs. The damn throws that they have are going year by year by year. The civil service is under assault from us. The Southern State is collapsing, it's falling apart.
Okay, so we have attacked the Orange State. Darrin, is exactly what it was that they were saying there. And, as sort of moving on a bit from Drumcree, do you feel as, let's say, a Protestant, a Unionist, a Loyalist, I will call it a British Unionist, because that encapsulates all the strands of Unionism here in Northern Ireland. But do you feel under attack in any way by Republicans?
Yeah, 100%. You know, our culture is continually under attack, and as you can see there in that video, it's an orchestrated attack. You know, they went for the Orange Order, they went for the RUC, they went for the civil service. They specifically targeted those people for reasons. You know, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they continue to do it. I suppose what Kate Hoy and Jamie Bryson had been saying recently about civic nationalism. Suppose that's sort of the same sort of thing. They targeted specific areas, lawyers, journalism, media, you know, and then they attacked it and tried to overthrow it and promote their propaganda. So yeah, and they're still doing that, you know. Even there, like you said about unionist, loyalist, British, the media try and claim every day, or try and sort of drag the word loyalist through the mud. You know, try and make us be ashamed that we are loyalists. Well, I'm not ashamed to say I'm a loyalist, you know. It's absolutely no problems at all. I'm proud of it. So yeah, everything's under attack. Our culture's continuing under attack. That's why we need our politicians to stand up to not only protect but also promote our culture.
Yeah, and there you have it from the horse's mouth. I mean, it isn't an illusion what they were doing, because he was exactly telling you that he was attacking the Orange Order, that they were attacking the civil service. And how did they attack the civil service? Let's remind people. Well, they used their office in Stormont to gather information on prison officers. And this was after that they had called a so-called ceasefire. And who remembers, Darrin, you might not remember at your age, but you know, the RUC of that day, what they did is they had to arrive up at Stormont at the Sinn Fein offices. And what they did was they carried away computers and files, and they were caught actually gathering information that was likely to be of use to terrorists. And you know, and whenever I personally look at things and how that things have unfolded, and I'll go back to Drumcree here, and I'm going to give you a famous phrase from that day. And there was the RUC chief inspector of that day was a man called Ronnie Flanagan. And Ronnie Flanagan would have said that he was policing, the RUC were policing on the basis of that they had the police against the lesser of two evils. So that might explain to you that whilst the Republicans, whilst they stood against the Orange State, and we heard Bobby Story saying it, well, the RUC had to actually stand against the good guys that were causing no problem, for fear of what? For fear of the violence to which that the IRA, the Republican machine, could have unleashed. So that is a phrase that was used in and around that time, and some of the older folk here will remember it very, very, you know. And how unfair is that? Is that you don't stand in the road, you don't stop someone, you're not the aggressor here. What you're doing is something that your forefathers done for hundreds of years, and you're stopped because of fear of the Republican violence. And we've seen that again playing out quite recently with the Brexit scenario. So we have Darrin. So Darrin, at this stage, what I want to do is that we want to slightly move on, because what we want to do is we want to paint the picture of who Darrin Foster is and why that it is. Scratch the surface and find out why that it is that Darrin feels the need to go and to stand and try to become an MLA. And Darrin, can I ask you just one question before that we move on? And next, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be playing you speaking at the Portadown Orange Hall just last week. But can I ask you a question? I mean, when you look at your mainstream politicians who have been so-called, quote unquote, serving and protecting you for all of your life, so-called, but whenever you look at them, do you feel served and protected by mainstream political parties within British unionism?
Definitely not. I think in the last few decades, I don't think unionism has ever lost as much. In its 100 years of Northern Ireland, we have never lost as much as we have recently. Right up until this year, we couldn't even get a centenary stone at Stormont, as an example. Yeah.
Cold house for unionists. And Darrin, you'll find on this channel, what we do is that we like to use the terminology unionist or British unionist, because the mainstream media, they are happy to use these divisional terms, and mainstream political parties are happy for the divisional terms to be in place so that they can step back and they can say, well, it wasn't us, we're unionists, that was the loyalists. that was the Protestants, that was someone else, that wasn't us. And all that is useful for, in terms of the media, is dividing what is one solid, consistent block. And that's the truth of the matter. So, Darrin, what I want to do right now, and I'm speaking to the live chat, and before that we play on, and we play Darrin here speaking last week in Portadown in the Orange Hall, what I would like to do is I would like to appeal to the live chat, and I would like to ask the live chat to please tag people into the live chat, anyone that would need to hear this, because what we want to do is that we want to profile this new blood within unionism here in Northern Ireland, and we want to show that there is an alternative to the mainstream political parties who, for all of my life, I'm 53 years of age now, and for all of my life, well, I have seen those people, what they do is they ask for support, then they lie to your face. And, you know, once bitten, well, for a lot of people, it is many, many, many times shy. And there are many people within our community here in Northern Ireland that simply, they will not vote for the DUP, they will not vote for the UUP. And isn't it as well that we have people like Darrin Foster coming and stepping forward and standing forward and offering himself as a vehicle by which that ordinary people just like him can get behind. And I would rather have, you know, one Darrin Foster than 100 Jeffrey Donaldsons every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again appeal to the live chat. Please tag, please share, please give us a like, please give us a love, because if you're new to the channel, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to invite you back here, because over the weeks we have a lot of people from this new blood within British Unionism. We have a lot of people that are going to be profiled on here, and we're going to give each and every one of them the chance to appeal to ordinary British Unionists just like themselves, and they're going to, I have absolutely no doubt, they're going to offer themselves to stand, to serve, and to protect you, me, and everyone else. And isn't it glorious? Isn't it a godsend that we actually have them in our hour of need? So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this little video. Now we're going to be stopping and starting the video, because what we want to do is that we want to pick over Darrin's words, and we want to actually stop at relevant areas, and we want to actually ask Darrin some questions on what it was that has driven him to say something and what it is that he's just said. So strap in, people. I believe that you're in for a ride in which, well, it'll be pleasurable to see a young man just like Darrin, who's, well, he's prepared to stand up for and on behalf of you. So over to Darrin, and we'll stop and start as we go.
I'd like to start by saying thank you. Thank you to the organisers for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight. Thank you to everyone for coming. It's wonderful to see so many people in loyal Portadown. But most of all, thank you to the grassroots loyalists that have held political unionism's feet to the fire. If it wasn't for you, some unionist politicians would still be talking up the opportunities of the protocol. But be warned, now is not the time to sit back and relax. Now is the time to push forward. Now is the time to stand up to Sinn Fein and the Republican movement and show the Republican movement that we are still here and we are ready for it. This protocol is the biggest threat to our position within the United Kingdom in a lifetime. Just this week, we were told the EU cannot remove some of the custom codes as the UK has requested. Why? Because, in the words of one EU official, there are some kinds of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, which are usually moved for consumption by restaurants and people in kitchens. There are other kinds of olive oil that are used for processing. It's only if you know with sufficient detail what kind of olive oil you're dealing with that you can then carry out a risk assessment about whether it's likely to be consumed in NI or whether it will have another purpose. There you have it. Olive oil from Great Britain is a threat to the peace process and the survival of the single market.
Darrin, what I want to do at this point, sorry about that, what I want to do is that I want to be able to ask you, and I want to be able to ask you, I mean, whenever you think of olive oil and the European Union making an excuse with reference that olive oil, they need to be sure about what is the olive oil is going to be used for. Is it going to be destined for, I assume they mean Northern Ireland only, or is it going to maybe enter the Republic of Ireland? But olive oil, of all things, to be citing as a reason as to why we have to be separated from the rest of the United Kingdom. As a young man of 26 years of age, I mean, what do you think whenever you hear that, whenever you see that? Do you think that they're playing silly buggers? Do you think that they're using any excuse? I mean, that's a few questions for you.
Well, I specifically used that about the olive oil just really to highlight how silly and petty the EU are actually being. It is being used, well, it's any excuse to beat the United Kingdom with, in my opinion. There's absolutely no reason why olive oil would be banned. It's just ridiculous for them to suggest that.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play on, and I just wanted to hear the reason why that you had included that in your speech. But yeah, absolutely, totally silly to be citing olive oil as a reason as to why that we should be separated from the rest of the United Kingdom. But playing on.
Isn't that why we were told we needed the sea border? Without it, peace itself could not survive. Let us be clear. If the EU are so worried about olive oil, then the EU can put the customs checks at the entry to its own territory. In truth, this protocol is about forcing us into an economic All-Ireland, in the hope that a political All-Ireland will just be a small step away. Tonight, we send a message to Dublin, to London, to Brussels. The Ulster people have had enough. We will never accept a border in the Irish Sea, and we will never accept an All-Ireland.
So, whenever you would say that the Ulster people have had enough, could I just scratch the surface and ask you, what do you mean that we've had enough? I mean, what is it you've had enough of, Darrin? I mean, how do you feel whenever that you would write such a thing?
Well, I suppose to go back to that point by Bobby's story, we've had enough of the attacks on our culture. We've had enough of the concessions to Sinn Fein and the Republican movement. The Irish language with an all-powerful commissioner. Just as an example, the flag being took down from City Hall in Belfast. And now, worst of all, the protocol. The biggest threat to our constitutional position within the UK in a lifetime. And people say that there's bigger issues than the protocol. Well, if the protocol is actually allowed to run its full course, it'll kill the NHS, it'll kill the economy. It tears us away from one of the biggest economies in the world. And at the minute, everybody's talking about the price of fuel and the energy prices. Well, the United Kingdom can't reduce the prices on energy because of the VAT in the Northern Ireland Protocol. So they can't reduce it in the rest of the UK because it would still be applicable in Northern Ireland, and they don't want to make an issue like that. That's the reason that the energy prices are so high, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And, and all those are very, very relevant points. And I just wanted people to understand who that it is that Darrin Foster is and what drives his thought processes, Darrin. So playing on.
The Belfast Agreement was sold to Unionists on the basis that there could be no constitutional change without consent. Now we know that the foundation stone, our Constitution, has been chipped away. Article 6 of the Acts of Union, guaranteeing freedom of trade within and between different parts of the United Kingdom, is no more. Far from the Belfast Agreement preserving our constitutional position, it has been used as a tool to advance the Republican agenda. They have demanded concession after concession They have taken inch after inch, but tonight we say enough. You will not take another inch of Ulster.
Right, Darrin, whenever you talk about them taking inch by inch, and I did hear you previously what you talked about there, and you talked about two things, and I compare these things in terms of, you talked about, say, for example, that the flag has been taken away from the Belfast City Hall. Now, I can tell you how I feel as a man from originally from Belfast. Don't live in Belfast now, but as a man originally from Belfast, I see that a conglomerate has entered that City Hall, has taken over politics in the Belfast City Hall, and whenever they get there, well, on the road up to them gaining a bit of power, well, everything had to be moved. All the goalposts had to be moved in order to provide a leg up for those people, because that they were a minority, and they had to be treated with respect and integrity and equality and all of those things. And now that they're there, well, what they seemingly want to do is that they don't want anything British about the place. And what they aim to do is that whilst that they remove that flag from the Belfast City Hall, whilst that they go after all vestiges of Britishness, all vestiges of our culture, now what they're speaking about is they're speaking about dual Irish and English signs in places, in shared spaces, not as if it's in their own area, but putting these signs into places where that they would be very, very unwelcome. And I would just like to finish before I go on and prompt you to a question. But, you know, in this country, Darrin, you know, in times when your dad had been growing up, myself and others, you know, people lost their lives for the way that they would say the word H or H, or people would have lost their lives for, you know, walking down the wrong road, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, all because that they belong to a different type of religion. And these people know no bounds in terms of that they don't seem to want accommodation. They ask for respect. They ask for integrity. They ask for, you know, to be treated in all equality. But whenever they get there, they forget the principles that actually presented the circumstances in which they claimed the letter. And now that they are up the ladder, well, they're there to ensure that this letter is kicked away. So, you know, I heard you mentioning, and I want you to compare where Britishness is being removed left, right, and centre. And for example, you would see in the ABC Council to which you belong, you would see that there is all sorts of this Irish language policy being put in place. Now, let me clarify for me, and you can certainly clarify for you, but I don't have any gripe with anyone that wants to speak Irish. I don't care whether they teach it, they preach it, they live, eat, sleep, drink, and breathe it. I don't care what they do with it. But please don't try to force it down my throat. Please don't try to force it into areas in which that what you can do is that you can set back the cause of reconciliation for generations to come. We've had enough division down throughout the years through this Republican machine. And if you looked at that video at the start, which I played, which Bobby Story had said that they attacked the Orange State, the civil service, the RUC, all vestiges of this state, trying to dismantle it and rack it and ruin it. Well, didn't Shana Walsh, one of the Sinn Feiners who's in Belfast City Hall, the man who is responsible for drawing this recent Republican strategy in terms of Irish, didn't he say that he wants to green Northern Ireland street by street using the Irish language? Darrin, would you just like to compare in terms of what it is that you think that you're losing and the gains that these people seem to be having when, well, it seems unfair to me. I don't know how it feels to you.
Yeah, I totally agree, absolutely, with everything you've said there. I suppose the most worrying thing about the Irish language in particular is the all-powerful commissioner. So what powers will this person actually have? They'll be able to introduce or to force other departments to hire employees that only speak Irish. So, you know, in years to come, you'll not be able to get a public servant job unless you can speak Irish. So that's, I would say that's the most worrying part about that, and then you've got, I suppose, lesser things like, as it's still important, but less important than maybe generations to come not being able to get jobs just because they don't speak Irish. But you've got the amount of money that it's going to cost, and I don't have the figures on hand here now, but it's going to be an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah, and I just heard the other day about the costs in terms of the translations at the criminal gang headquarters, is what I like to call it, in Stormont, where they're doing the translations at the minute, and and it's cost quite a few £1,000s to have things translated into Irish as we stand, and at a time whenever money would be much better spent on other things. I mean, let's face it, that we're not flush as a result of a lot of things that has happened here in Northern Ireland down throughout the years, and all this would serve to do would be to further help bankrupt Northern Ireland society. And if you think that you've seen something yet, and I'm appealing to the live chat here, well, I'm going to say that whenever this Republican nation building strategy gets up and running and they have the proper tools to do it, vis-a-vis the Irish Language Commissioner with powers to compel businesses to comply, well, if you thought that you'd seen destabilization, you really haven't seen anything yet, and that you can take to the bank. That's the truth. So Darrin, what we're going to do is we're going to just play on, and again I'm going to ask the live chat at this stage is that, again, I would like to ask you if you want to tag people into the live chat, if you want to give us a like, give us a love, make sure you do that if you're new to the channel, because this way is how that we actually get to propagate our message. From Restore UK on Facebook, you can share this. From the British Unionist People's Voice on Facebook, you can share the channel. You can share it out into your own channel, some private groups or pages, basically, in order to bring as many people here as humanly possible. And just before that we move on with Darrin's speech, also we would like to ask that what we do here at Restore is that we rely on ordinary folk to help us to help you. And everyone knows that comes to this channel that we've been involved in quite a few things over, let's say, the past year, over the previous year, in where that your money would have helped us to buy banners, like, for example, in July time, to send around Northern Ireland and to give to all the different places right around. And we've done other things, as you well know, with the money that you've given us. So I would just like to pop up a little PayPal link, and if you can help our channel, click on that link. It's in the live chat, and if you can put a few pound into the channel, well, what it does is it helps with our costs, and it saves the few putting their hands into their pockets. So moving on now with what it is that we're doing here with Darrin.
Unionism will not take part in a process that seeks to destroy our way of life, a process designed to ease our people into an all-Ireland. Unionists need to unite and demand that the Union is restored. There is no best of both worlds. The best of both worlds fails to respect our place in the United Kingdom.
So Darrin, I just want to ask you a question on what you just said there. And I thought it was a very good point. But unionism will not take part in a process that aims to take them away from the United Kingdom. And that's me paraphrasing. So would you just like to talk to the live chat, address the live chat, and expand on what it is that you meant whenever you said that?
Well, unfortunately, some unionists have been taking part in the process that's designed to ease our people into United Ireland. So that's unfortunate, but I won't be one of them. There's absolutely no chance that I would sit up cosy with Sinn Fein in Stormont and play a part in their process, the Republican agenda, one-sided process, and it's only heading one way. So that's really, from the Belfast Agreement, it's just been concession after concession. They've been trying to ease our people into an all-Ireland, and I won't be taking any part of it.
Yeah, and that would sound like a breath of fresh air to those of us, and I'll include myself in that number, but those of us who for too many years have seen our unionist politicians, our mainstream unionist politicians, playing for themselves, in my honest opinion, and also, there's issues that they should be dealing with. There are things that they should be dealing with, and on the second part of this show, we're going to be talking about it. But there's things that they should be dealing with, but they won't, and they don't. And my honest opinion is that they are, in terms of the media, is that if they stand up for things, what happens is that the media launches on them. An angry mob mentality ensues, and they get a lot of flack in the media, and they don't seem to want to take that flack. So I'll use a terminology here, and I would say that I hope that everyone remembers this, but our political leaders, in terms of the DUP leadership, the UUP leadership, well, now, notwithstanding there's an election coming up, of course, because we hear them talking fine words right now, but before and after the election and in between, what happens is that they are politically castrated and rendered impotent in terms of standing up for our way of life in the media, because they don't really want to take the hard time in the media, and if they can get an easy time for themselves, well, that's exactly the pathway and the road that they will travel. They will travel the road of least resistance for themselves. So again, Darrin, thinking about what you just said there, that you will not be taking part in a process that is designed to ensure that you are not respected as a loyalist, a British Unionist here in Northern Ireland. And once again, I'm going to say that a lot of people on this live chat will be, they will be, put it like this, they'll give you the thumbs up for those words. And I believe, Darrin, I believe, just like so many others in the TUV right now, because these are ordinary people. You're doing this, you're putting your head above the parapet because that you care for the country. I believe that you will be a man of your word, just like the other TUV people who are just, remember, people just like us, just ordinary people who are sick, sore and tired of being treated like fools, treated like second-class citizens, who have a border in the North Channel, who are separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, and who are, well, we're the whipping people of every, of the world and his dog, so to speak. So again, I'm just going to play on about what else Darrin was saying in Portadown, Orange Hall just last week.
We must unite behind the solemn pledge that all Unionist leaders endorsed on the 28th of September 2021. Let me read it to you. We, the undersigned Unionist political leaders, affirm our position to the Northern Ireland Protocol, its mechanisms and structures, and reaffirm our unalterable position that the Protocol must be rejected and replaced by arrangements which fully respect Northern Ireland's position as a constituent and integral part of the United Kingdom. What's this all about? This is about the basic demand of the Ulster Covenant, where our forefathers pledged to defend for ourselves and our children our cherished position of equal citizenships in the United Kingdom. Equal citizenship was demanded 100 years ago, and it is the same today. I welcome the recent collapse of the Stormont Executive. In January last year, our party recognised that Forest must be made to choose between Stormont and the Protocol. I'm glad that others have caught up. Tonight, we must be clear. This cannot be just a pre-election campaign move. There must be no return to Sinn Fein concessions, no return to Protocol implementing, and no return to the process that leads us into an All-Ireland. We will not be the generation to fail Ulster. No surrender.
Yeah, those were fine words. Fine words for a 26-year-old. And, you know, people, I would like for the people on the live chat, and the numbers are fairly high right across the platforms this evening. I would like for you to leave Darrin a message of support, encouraging him, because, you know, it's you know, it's not easy to stand up. It's not easy to put your head above the parapet. It's not easy to be standing up for and on behalf of unionism here in Northern Ireland, especially whenever that what you're doing is you're putting yourself up against, I'm going to call it the Provost School of Journalism, the activists in the media who want to see the end of nation state. And what we are as unionists, as Protestants, unionists, loyalists here in Northern Ireland, we are people who have a history, a heritage, and a culture that is worth standing up for. And, you know, those that have done it in the past, well, we've seen how that the mainstream media can be ferocious in their attempts in order to run them down, in order to paint a bad picture. So please encourage Darrin and anyone else like Darrin, give them all the encouragement you can, because the truth of the matter is that they will actually need it. And Darrin, I'm going to say that you, the rest of the TUV candidates, I mean, you have our unwavering support here on Restore UK. And, you know, again, like I've said to the lady that was on last week, you know, look, we would like to basically help in any way that we can. And, you know, we'll come to the point, Darrin, where I'm going to let you address the live chat, and I want you to appeal to the live chat. And no doubt that you're going to be out electioneering in the very soon. In fact, I no doubt that you are out electioneering. And if you need any help in any way, shape, or form, well, you can use this platform in order to appeal to people for that little bit of help. Because you know something, people, we is better than I, and together we are definitely strong. So Darrin, moving on, again, that was a fine speech, and thank you very much for that. It was a breath of fresh air. So moving on, before that we close, and I know that I said that it would keep you here for an hour, but we might go over a few minutes, because I think that things have went smoothly so far, and people are enjoying. I can see by the live chat there that people are enjoying your presence here. So what I want to do, Darrin, is I'm just looking for a little video clip, and I want to play 2 video clips. And I want to ask you a question based on these 2 little video clips. So number one is who we term the leader of British unionism right now. Now, I have to say, on a personal basis, he isn't my leader, and that's the definite from me. But however, this is what this man is termed. And I just want to recap and to let people understand what it is that Darrin speaks about whenever he says that he's had enough, that he's sick, sore, and tired of being let down by the people that he elects into place to serve and protect him. And I just want to play a little clip from Sir Geoffrey Donaldson just after the EU protocol was put in place. And, you know, Geoffrey in this little clip talks about he wants to exploit the benefits of the protocol now because of ordinary people like Darrin Foster, because of ordinary people, just like the people on our live chat and the people in Market Hill last week and the people that are turning up at those orange halls in rallying for a support for British unionism as a whole. Well, you know, because of those people, well, Geoffrey Donaldson actually found it that he had to backtrack. And the British unionist people here in Northern Ireland, well, they put the DUP behind the 8 ball. And today we have a complete turnaround in the situation from Geoffrey Donaldson. So let's remind people of what it was that Geoffrey had said just after the protocol was put in place.
Well, in the end, customs checks doesn't mean that you change the constitutional status of a part of the United Kingdom. That's not going to happen. Already we're seeing the political parties and business leaders coming together to see how we actually exploit the opportunities that may arise from this situation, not only to ensure we have full access to the UK market, but we've also got access to the EU market.
Now, Darrin, I'm not asking you to attack Geoffrey Donaldson. It's not befitting of a man that's going to be standing in elections. You can leave the attacking to people like me, who have seen the DUP U-turn and and turn around after promising. They ask for your support, then they lie to your face. And that's a poem that we often air here on Restore. But whenever Jeffrey would have said that he wants to exploit the benefits within the protocol, I would just like to ask you for some commentary in terms of, as I would have asked Jim Allister when we had him on this screen a few months ago. Can you have a protocol in its present form and have no constitutional change? And yet Jeffrey wants to exploit the benefits in that very same protocol, which is constitutional changing for Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. Over to you, Darrin, if you would like to just give us your thoughts.
Well, first of all, Jeffrey Donaldson isn't the leader of unionism. Jim Allister is. I'd just like to make that very clear. So, on the best of both worlds situation, no, it's not possible. There can't be some sort of best of both worlds. We're either part of the European Union or we're part of the United Kingdom that have left the European Union. It's as simple as that. Anybody else that tries to say anything different is just telling lies. Without attacking Jeffrey Donaldson, I think a point that has to be made is I don't think there's been any senior politician that has been involved in as many negotiations in the past, 20, 25 years as Jeffrey Donaldson has. So you could say there's not a unionist politician that has given away our Britishness in the last 25 years as much as Jeffrey Donaldson.
Yeah. And I think I can put a little phraseology on that, is that someone's fingerprints is all over the very reasons as to why that we as British Unionists find ourselves in this position in March of 2022. So, Darrin, yeah, very, very well said. So, moving on, and we're coming to a close, Darrin, and there's two more things that I want to do. I want to play a little poem that we often air here, and the reason, this wasn't planned, and the reason why we want to play this poem is because that of some of the things that you would have said, and I know that these words are going to gel with you, and I know that these words will prompt a very good closing speech, let's just say, from Darrin Foster. And whenever we play this poem, and we're just going to ask you your thoughts on the words that you've just heard. One other thing that we'll want to do before we close this evening is we want to ask you on if there was anything that you've got to want to restore in Northern Ireland or in the United Kingdom today with reference politics. What is it that you would restore? So I'm just laying out the context of how that it is that we're going to close the screen. So over to the poem. Whenever the poem's finished, I want you to come back and I want you to give us your thoughts on these words that you've just heard. Now, this poem was written by someone that works in our background. And, I got my, let me just say, I got my toe in the water in terms of is that whenever Jim Verner had written this poem, and I believe in these words wholeheartedly, well, I said to Jim, that is a little synopsis of where we started and why that it is that we're in the position that we're in, but we really need a bit of a solution tagged onto the end of this. So I wrote the solution at the end of the poem. So playing us with the poem, and then I would like to ask you a few questions, Darrin, or just give us your thoughts on the words that you hear in this poem. I can't help but wonder why so many people, they had to die for being British in our own land, murdered by cowards with their evil hand. The IRA crept back to their bed after leaving so many people dead. A soldier, a cop, a father, a son, a woman, a child, just anyone. But the Unionist people, they did not lie down, fought and defended the red hand and the crown. We stood proud, ready and able. The IRA cried to come to the table. The Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle and lies. The peace is a farce, the guns are still there, and London's afraid of another bomb scare. Appeasement after appeasement, day after day, provos in government still getting their way, and our two big parties, well, what can I say? They are sitting in Stormont with the IRA. Not listening to the people who put them in place. They ask for support, then they lie to your face. A United Unionist party, some say we need, but there's too much corruption, lies and greed. I can't help but wonder why so many people, they had to die for being British in our own land. You can never shake a terrorist's hand. Think of our country, the red hand on the crown. Listen to the people, stop letting us down. Our leaders have blown the chance to make things right. The whole of unionism, I mean the people, we must unite. So we reach out again with offer of partnership. No time for politicians hell-bent on dictatorship. No puppets, no lackeys, our people deserve better. We will not be sucked in with promises in letter. Meaningful and proactive is the only game in town. We long for a day when politicians stop letting us down. You have one more chance at putting things right. But this time we demand that you stick to the fight. A roadmap must be drawn, agreed by everyone. No hierarchy, no pulling rank is exactly what must be done. An army of people must be put together with weapons of words, which will remain and abide forever. United we stand, divided we most definitely fall. Still gets the emotions stirred, that poem, even though that I've heard it and spoke it so many times. An army of people must be put together with weapons of words which will remain and abide for another 100 years. Darrin, would you just like to give us your thoughts on what it is that you've just heard there?
Well, so it's a really, really great poem. I haven't actually heard it before, but yeah, it's really brilliant. So it was Jim Verner you said wrote that?
Yeah, Jim Verner would have wrote the start, and I wrote the solution basically to it at the end.
Well done, you both. That was great. But I don't think you can listen to that poem and watch that video and come away thinking that terrorists should be in government. They shouldn't. You're legitimising the terrorist campaign that they took part in and bombed our people. So at the start of my speech in Carlton Street, I thanked the grassroots loyalists that held political unionism's feet to the fire. You touched on it as well. If it wasn't for those people going out and protesting a year ago, the DUP would never have changed their stance. No, it's down to ordinary loyalists like you and me to do something about it and to stand up, to rise up and resist. And I want to see more protests and more resistance from everyone. So I think that's a challenge to us all. We need to step up. Now's not the time to be complacent and sit back and relax. Now's the time to push forward and take the fight to Sinn Fein.
Very well said, Darrin. And Darrin, just one comment on something that we're going to be doing in the second part of this show. We'll probably go on for another 40 minutes whenever we drop you down here. But I'm going to show you one picture, and then I want to ask you about that restore. So I just like your commentary on this picture, and you can comment over it. Darrin, go ahead.
Well, it's an absolute disgrace, and it's a prime example of why they have absolutely no place in our government. There's not a leader among Sinn Fein. There's no place in Northern Ireland. You can't work with a party that doesn't want the country to work. It's as simple as that.
And does that picture in any way reach out the hand of friendship to you? Does it help reconcile you with what had happened over the years here in Northern Ireland, or does it add insult to the injury?
Well, not a chance. Of course, it adds insult to the injury. They're not ashamed of anything. They're offended by everything and ashamed by nothing, as the quote goes. But yeah, it's just typical of them, and that's they never asked for an apology and they're not sorry, or sorry, they've never given an apology because they're not sorry. So I think that it's just a clear indication of why they've got no place in the government.
Yeah, Darrin, and just one more thing before that we close and I move on with what I'm here to do for the second part of the show. I'd like to ask you, okay, so you call this channel Restore, and at this minute in time, I would like to restore Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom back to being a full member of the United Kingdom, and I would also like to restore the Act of the Union. And the Act of the Union, I mean, it's a very, very important part of it's a leg of a stool, as Jim Allister would have said, and if you take one leg away, well, the stool becomes literally unstable. So Darrin, is there anything in 2022 that you could you would like to restore within politics right around the United Kingdom?
Well, yeah, I think the most obvious answer is to restore our place within the United Kingdom, of course. The protocol obviously takes that away, but to restore that most importantly, but also to restore our culture to where it was, where it should be. We have nothing to be ashamed about for being British, and I think that needs to be really drummed home.
Yeah, indeed. Darrin, well, look, thank you very much. And I'm sure I'm appealing to the live chat here, where the numbers have stayed really, really high across the screens. So again, I'm appealing to the live chat. Whenever Darrin is going off here very, very shortly, and we're just going to ask him to really appeal to the live chat one more time. But leave your messages of support for Darrin, because people like Darrin, again, I'll say this, is that if they're willing to put their heads above the parapet for and on behalf of us, well, I think the least that we can do is to show them our absolute support. Now, Darrin, I want you to, in closing, before that you go, and I would like also for you to come back periodically on the run up to the elections, because I've quite enjoyed speaking to you, and I know by the live chat there and the messages that has been left, I know that the live chat has enjoyed the night with Darrin Foster. So Darrin, you are actually electioneering at the minute. You're knocking doors, you're out and about, you're around, and you're appealing for support. So it's your platform. Over to you, and I want you to appeal to the people on the live chat with reference. I mean, do you need any help to knock doors? Do you need any people to deliver leaflets? I mean, just appeal to the live chat there, Darrin. And what also we will do is that your appeal here right now, we'll cut it into a very small video and we'll pass it to you, and it'll be used as a promotional tool for you to appeal for support or other ways. Over to you, Darrin.
Well, there's many ways that you can help in an election campaign, and it can be as much as going out, putting up posters, going knocking doors, canvassing, or just putting the leaflets through the doors, or even so much as just sharing our posts on Facebook and getting a platform on that. So if you think that you can do any of the above, I'd be more than happy to have you just reach out, contact us, like our Facebook pages, share them. There's plenty of them. There's TUV Upper Ban, Darrin Foster Traditional Unionists, our main TUV page, even sharing the posts off Jim Allister's page. Anything at all that you can do to help is really appreciated. Oh, John, I think.
Sorry, Darrin, thanks for that. And I'm just going to, in my normal fashion, what I want to do is, I'll tell you why I muted myself. I muted myself because I didn't want to be interfering with your screen, me moving the seat or whatever. But anyway, here we go. I just, I'm going to ring every last drop out. If you hear Darrin, I may as well whilst you're here. So just one more comment for you, okay? So I'd like you to read this picture out to the live chat, and here's an exclusive here on Restore Live, and it's going to be read by Darrin Foster. And I would just like you to tell me whether you think this is a good idea, whether you think this needs done. Over to you, Darrin.
Have your say. Good Friday, 15th of April 2022, 1:30 p.m. Stormont Estate. Protest against the Belfast Agreement, I believe that is. Fairness and equality.
Yeah. And on the bottom, it's your decision. Restore fairness and equality. And I believe that the reasons why that we find ourselves in the position that we're in is down to what's known as the people like ourselves here who has slept, drinked and breathed this from its inception, and even on the run up to it, that we believe that, as you will have heard in the poem there, that the Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle and lies, that the peace is a farce, that the IRA guns are still there. And the reason why we're in this position, whenever they would have threatened the violence on the border, if the border had went where the border should have been, where the EU demanded a border, well, they threatened the violence. And we as British Unionists have ended up with a border in the North Channel. And why? To protect this Belfast appeasement. So the real reasons as to why that we're in this position is because of this Belfast Agreement, which when we need it to work for us, when we need that principle of consent to work for us, well, what we've learned is that it's not worth the paper that it's written on. So, Darrin, thanks for reading that out. And on the 15th of June this year, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be arriving into the Stormont Estate in protest at the very fact that Belfast Agreement doesn't work for British Unionists, that the Belfast Agreement, that it is a disguise, that the Belfast Agreement, in the words of the man who helped actually form the Belfast Agreement, that was a guy called Jonathan Powell, who was Tony Blair's chief aide at the time. Well, here's what he said on national TV. He said that if the Belfast Agreement hadn't been written in constructive ambiguity, there wouldn't have been a Belfast Agreement. Now, what does constructive ambiguity mean? It means that it means all things to everybody. In other words, that principle of consent, well, that was the illusion of consent, and that's what we've learned in 2000. Well, the crossover of the year between the protocol coming into being just last year, 2009, 2020, 2021. What we learned is that Belfast Agreement, well, when push comes to shove, it doesn't work for us. So I hope that every British Unionist arrives in at Stormont on the 15th of April of 2022, just to send a clear message to those that would be standing in election. Well, that Belfast Agreement, if you want to support that, you're certainly not working for British Unionism here in Northern Ireland. And until that there is a level playing field that is put back in place, well, I believe that people need to walk away from it in its totality, and anything that flows from it, until such times as we as British Unionists are treated with respect, treated with the respect that we actually deserve. We're returned to being first-class citizens. That border is removed from the North Channel, and we become fully fledged members of the United Kingdom once again. Darrin, thanks very much for coming along. Thanks for reading that out. And yeah, you're a breath of fresh air, young man. I know your dad very, very well. You're a chip off the old block, let's just say. And I do hope, Darrin, that you'll come back again to Restore UK, just to tell us of the progress. And if at any time that you need us to get a message out or whatever, just don't be shy. Contact this channel, and well, or if you need any videos done or anything else, well, we're with you, Darrin. We're looking to ensure that people like you actually get the chance to represent us, because for far too long, those that we have elected into place to serve and protect us, well, They ask for your support, then they lie to your face. And then there's the words of Carson. You mentioned Carson there. We were only puppets. We were humble rungs in a ladder which helped the DUP climb into power. Once in power, they kick away the ladder with no concern for you, for I, or for anyone else. Darrin, just address the live chat, give them your goodbyes, and thanks very much, son, for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite to come on. I really appreciate the support. Thanks for having me. It's time for TUV, I think. Thanks very much.
Yeah, every party has its day. Thanks very much, Darrin. Thank you very much for coming along, and we'll see you soon. Well, there you go, people. Darrin Foster, a young 26-year-old from the Portadown area, a young man who would have, grown up and who would have visited places like Drumcree. And whilst that he didn't exactly know that what was going on, well, he began to watch politics from the age of 7 going forward. And as you'll have listened, he's sort of saying, from a young man of that age, he's saying that enough is enough. That enough is enough, and he doesn't want any more capitulation on the things that matter to British Unionists here in Northern Ireland. So again, look, I can see by the live chat that people have appreciated young Darrin for being on here. And you know something? Darrin's not a polished politician by any means. Darrin's like ourselves. Darrin is an ordinary person. But you know something? It is ordinary people that will stand to the death to serve and protect you, to serve and protect your place in the United Kingdom, that will fight tirelessly, that will fight tooth and nail in order to preserve you and your way of life for many, many, many years to come. We need to be out with the old school and in with the new. And I believe the likes of Darrin is actually the new face of British Unionism here in Northern Ireland. Well, if we've anything to do with it, and I know that if the people on the live chat have anything to do with it, well, Darrin will actually get his chance at representing the people of Northern Ireland in that farce, in that criminal gang headquarters, in that house in the hill, within that Belfast Agreement and the things that flow from that Belfast Agreement. The likes of Darrin should have his place serving and protecting you and standing up for your British way of life. And fair play to Darrin, fair play to the live chat for keeping on. So here's what we want to do at this stage. What we're going to do yet again, now we're moving on and we're going to be here we'll stay for another 30 minutes. Well, I might tell lies. It might be into maybe 40 minutes, and that's what I mean by telling lies. But I've something here that I want to discuss, because we've done this as a two-pronged approach. And what we wanted to do is that we wanted to another candidate, another new candidate, another new face from within British Unionism. And then we wanted to go on and talk about something that happened in Northern Ireland last week. And we wanted to explore the circumstances as to why. How are we expected to share power, to share space, to reconcile with, to amalgamate with people that continue to add insult to the injury of us as the electorate here in Northern Ireland, add insult to the injury of the people that they've actually murdered down throughout the years? How are we expected to reconcile with these folk whenever, they do things in a calculated way, and they're doing things to wind our community up, whilst our politicians, only at a time of election, have they decided, our mainstream politicians, to stand up against the IRA machine, the killing machine, the evil ideology that would have indoctrinated and murdered children down throughout the years. How are we meant to reconcile with these people whenever what they continue to do is they continue to wind things up in a way that Northern Ireland is a very, very, very unstable place? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to play a little song whilst that we prepare, and whilst that we prepare to go over and talk some more about the recent events in which that Sinn Fein, in which Michelle O'Neill, in which the GAA, the sporting wing of the IRA, quote unquote, and I will say this without fear of anyone attacking me for saying this, that they have put themselves in the position, they consistently have put themselves in the position that we can call them the sporting wing of the IRA. And it gets better. It gets better than that. Not only are they the sporting wing of the IRA, but they are the fully funded, publicly funded, and some unionists support them, the sporting wing of the IRA. So let's move on. We're going to play a little song. And what we're going to do is that we're going to come back and we're going to talk about recent events in where that Michelle O'Neill, the joint First Minister of Northern Ireland, was glorifying terrorism, contrary to the terrorist laws which would be in place. No one else is allowed to glorify terrorism, well, except if you have a hierarchy of rights, which Sinn Fein obviously does have. So what we want to do is that we want to play a little song, and we're coming back to talk about the glorification of terrorism and the sporting wing of the IRA.
I looked outside. What did I see? A little bird. He looked at me. I lured him close. With a piece of bread. And then I smashed. His little head. The moral of the story is. You want some head. You need some bread. Right turn. Huh.
Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows that the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got that broken feeling, like their father or their dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everybody want a box of chocolates and a long stem rose. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows that you love me, baby. Everybody knows that you really do. Everybody knows that you've been faithful, give or take a night or two. Everybody knows you've been discreet, but there were so many people you just had to meet without your clothes. Yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. And everybody knows that it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. Everybody knows you live forever when you've gone and done a line or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows. Yeah, everybody knows. And everybody knows that the plague is coming. Everybody knows that it's moving fast. Everybody knows that the naked man and woman are just a shining artifact of the past. Everybody knows the scene is dead, but there's gonna be a meter on your bed that will disclose what everybody knows. Everybody knows that you're in trouble. Everybody knows what you've been through. From the bloody cross on top of Calvary to the beach of Malibu. Everybody knows it's coming apart. Take one last look at this sacred heart before it blows. Yeah, everybody knows.
I looked outside. What did I see? A little bird. He looked at me. I lured him close. With a piece of bread. And then I smashed. His little head.
So there you go. And I'm just going to speak over this here. So have your say on Good Friday, 15th of April in 2022 at 1:30 p.m. Stormont Estate. It's with reference to this Belfast Agreement, which doesn't work for British Unionists, which is proven that it doesn't work for British Unionists, which is proven that the principle of consent, it is all but wording within this agreement. And that was the only thing that British Unionists would have got out of that agreement. And whenever we need that to work for us, we've learned as via the protocol that this principle of consent, it wasn't worth the paper that it was actually written on. And the paper that it was written on was this Belfast Agreement. So it's your decision. It says at the bottom of this picture, restore fairness and equality. Fairness for British Unionists and equality for British Unionists, because right now you don't have any equality. There are people, Republicans, nationalists, those that would vote wouldn't have even won the vote, those that would have lost the Brexit referendum, and they're being treated more favourably than you are, because you are separated from the rest of the United Kingdom. You have a border in the North Channel. You're not a fully fledged member of the United Kingdom right now. You are a rule taker of the EU, and you voted with that 17.4 plus million people to rid yourself of the EU, and yet democracy was not afforded to you. And the very reasons that they used was this Belfast Agreement had to be protected, but it had to be protected for nationalists. But it didn't have to be protected for you, because you needed the principle of consent to work for you. And in your hour of need, what you found is that principle of consent, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The Belfast Agreement, it isn't it is a green document. It isn't an orange document. It isn't a document which serves to serve and protect the people that want to remain part of the United Kingdom. We have the moral high ground. We won the referendum, and yet we are being, we're the losers, people. We are the losers, even though that we won. How does that work out? How does that work out? So I would like to invite each and every one of you up to Stormont on the 15th of April, Good Friday at 1:30. And what I'm going to say is that, if you're not there, you're not going to make part of history, are you? You remember that we done the centenary celebration. We done that in late December of last year. And we went ahead, we done the centenary celebration. Now, a handful of people turned up, but at the end of the day, I think that the people that didn't turn up actually, they missed out. And they missed out because why? Because what we did was that we, let's remind people, is that we planted a centenary stone on the grounds of Stormont. Now, granted, Sinn Fein didn't want a centenary stone about the place. So what they did was they had it removed in the middle of the night. But there you go. So all I'm saying to people is that there's going to be a day, and there's people from Scotland coming, and what we're appealing to people here about is that, you know, if you know anyone that's in a marching band, if you know any pipers, if you know anyone that wants to be part of protesting against this Belfast Agreement, which doesn't work for British Unionists, well, register with us here at Restore, and we look forward to seeing each and every one of you on Good Friday, the April the 15th in 2022, in where I can promise you, I can look into this camera and I can promise you, you will be making history. And if you're not there, well, you're only going to miss out on making history. So if you care, be there. And if you want to be part of that history, well, you'll also be there. So before that we move on and we talk about things that have been going on within our community, what I want to do is that I want to actually go back a little bit on the live chat here. And I want once again to pop this up, because this is essential. It's essential that people helps us here at Restore. It's essential that people, if they can put a few pound into that. And well, what it will be doing is it'll be helping us with the Good Friday thing that we're going to be doing in where that, well, I'm smiling and I'm looking forward to it. And I would say that if you want to be part of history, you should be there too. But, you know, if you can, if you would like to help by clicking on that PayPal link, it's in the live chat. You know, what you can do is you can put a few pound into your channel, and we make these appeals, and we have to make these appeals, and we continue to make these appeals because is that now we've got quite a bit of money, which is sitting within our account right now. To do certain things, and we haven't forgot about the centenary woods. You know, these things are taking a wee bit longer to sort out than what you would have imagined. But we're still pursuing, and some money's still sitting there to look after the centenary woods. So you know, we're hoping to be talking about that in the very, very near future. But if you can help us, continue to click on that link and put a few pound into the Restore channel, and you know that that your money will be used in the proper way. Bob Campbell, will badges be on sale there, John? Yes, Bob, we have now here we go. We have badges in their abundance. You know, badges in those little you know, no REC border badges in their abundance, and there's more actually. There's lots more than that. You know, there's plenty of badges knocking around. So yes, yeah, we'll bring a lot of badges with us, and in fact, you know, it's going to be a good day. So I'm going to say that badges won't be on sale on that day. Badges will actually be given free of charge to the people that comes and supports the protest against the Belfast Agreement, and the very fact that the Belfast Agreement doesn't work for British Unionists. So okay, so what are we going to do now? Now that we're at this point in the show, and we'll try to keep it as brief as we can. But what we want to do is that we want to now move on, and we want to pop up this picture. And this is the genesis of what it is that we want to talk about on Restore UK right now. So I'm going to pop up a picture. So here in this picture, what you'll see is Michelle O'Neill. Now, I didn't do this picture. It was on social media, and we borrowed it. But I thought it was a good, it depicted the reality. It depicted the very fact that these people, well, this is the deputy, or not, I'm going to say the deputy, this is the joint First Minister in Northern Ireland. And I give her that title because that is the reality. You know, this St Andrews Agreement to which the DUP altered things and signed up to, well, didn't that permit for a joint First Minister, not a deputy First Minister, in where that nothing can be agreed unless that the joint First Minister's office agrees to it. So don't let the DUP tell you that they can do something and the DUP can't, is because the reality is that if our politicians were serving and protecting us, well, not a lot would flow through that house, that criminal gang headquarters, which is located off the Upper Newton Ards Road, known as the appeasement headquarters. So what we see here is Michelle O'Neill. We see the joint First Minister. Now, the joint First Minister of Northern Ireland, who's meant to be according to her ministerial code. She's meant to be serving and protecting everyone. She's meant to be doing things in a way in where that, well, let's just apply the logic of an equality impact assessment. And, and what they would have to do is that they would have to assess as to whether or not that what they do is, does it add insult to the injury of victims who's lost their lives? Does it hurt people? That's what they would have to do, especially the joint First Minister, that they would have to tread a very nimble line. They would have to be very, very careful that they don't actually, they don't offend anyone. And yet here we have Michelle O'Neill. Now, it gets worse than that. Here we have Michelle O'Neill standing at this little memorial, which is putting into memorializing volunteer Peter Clancy, volunteer Hugh Gerard Coney, and volunteer Brian Campbell. And it's erected by, are you ready for it? By Cluno Rahillis in proud memory of our fallen Gaels. Now, let me just point something out here, point something very obvious out here. That these people calculated who that it was that they were going to memorialize in a little memorial outside this so-called cross-community GAA club, which is in receipt of huge amounts of public funding. Now, this is the reality. The reality is that this Cluno Rahillis, well, what they're doing is that they chose, now this is the significance of this, they chose to memorialize 3 people who were involved in murdering, maiming, and killing your nearest and dearest. They chose to glorify terrorism. They chose, contrary to the terrorism laws, to glorify terrorists. Now ask yourself a question, and this is a very, very important point. Ask yourself, from 1972 going forward, when we can see that, this is the time frame when a lot of these people were involved in this IRA terrorism. But from 1972 going forward, does this Cluno Rahillis not have other members which weren't involved in IRA terrorism? Yet they opted to glorify terrorists in this little memorial outside this what you call Cluno Rahillis, and that's what they call their ground. Now, who was O'Rahilly? O'Rahilly was someone who was involved in the Easter Rising, someone else who was involved in murder back in the day. And I'm going to say that this GAA, it is unquestionable. It is without fear of me being contradicted that these people, when they choose to glorify terrorists, when they choose to glorify those that would set out to murder your nearest and your dearest, and those who are involved in a machine that would have murdered your nearest and dearest, when they set out to add insult to the injury of the victims that they've caused, when the joint First Minister of Northern Ireland within that criminal gang headquarters on the house in Stormont would set out to glorify terrorists and terrorism, when that's what they would do, what self-respecting British Unionist would and should ever share power with that? In fact, I'm going to add a bit to this. I'm going to go a bit further, and I'm going to say, when the joint First Minister glorifies this, when the publicly funded, well above any other organisation in Northern Ireland, when the publicly funded GAA glorifies terrorism that murdered and maimed your nearest and your dearest in a direct and an act of provocation, because that's what it was. It was a calculated act of provocation towards ordinary victims in this country. when that's what these people are capable of? The Joint First Minister, who has a ministerial code. Well, how then can any self-respecting British Unionist leader share power with this? Leave your messages in the live chat. Tell me what your thoughts are. Maybe you've lost a loved one. I know people that has lost loved ones. In fact, some of my nearest and dearest friends have been murdered by this vermin, this scum. And yet this potentially is going to become the First Minister of Northern Ireland. Is this right? Is this a cesspit of corruption? I ask again, is this House, the Northern Ireland Assembly, a cesspit of corruption whenever it permits this to happen? Whenever Mugbeatties of this world would share power with that? Whenever Jeffrey Donaldsons of this world would share power with that? When they continuously poke and when they provoke and when they add insult to the injury of the victims to which that their bedfellows have created? How can any self-respecting unionist ever share power with that? I'm going to play a little video. And what I want to do is I want to play me talking about something on a previous stream. And it's only for just a minute. And then what we want to do is that we want to go into a recent video made by Sinn Fein, made by people like Jerry Kelly, in where that they glorify terrorism, contrary to the terrorism laws, in a way that shows that they have a hierarchy of rights, in a way that shows that they're threatening violence. Well, it seemingly has worked. It has worked because not only do the British government not say anything about it, not only do this dictatorial Ponzi scheme that is the federal EU, they don't say anything about it. The Irish government don't say anything about it. But your British Unionist politicians, if it wasn't for an election, people, well, they wouldn't be saying anything about it either. They're happy enough to take their money and to share power with this vermin, because that's what it is. It's vermin. So let's play a little clip just to recap on something that I had said just a week ago to put things into a bit of context. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to look at the Sinn Fein machine. And we're going to show how that they continuously, in a calculated way, how that they add insult to the injury of the victims that their bedfellows have created. And assembly. There is what federalism looks like. There isn't a question from this so-called federal Europe with reference why that this so-called publicly funded GAA is well, they're funded highly above all other, and yet they're promoting terrorism. They are the sporting wing of the IRA. That's what they are. They're nothing less. They are sporting wing of terrorists who want to continue to add insult to the injury of their victims. Look at this smiling woman in the Northern Ireland Assembly just a few days ago, glorifying terrorism, glorifying the people who murdered and maimed and killed and slaughtered your loved ones over the years. And yet your unionist politicians want to share power with this. Jeffrey Donaldson wants to make peace with this enemy who wants to add insult to the injury of the memories of the people who stood up against terrorism, who put themselves in danger to stand between a sense of normality and terrorism here in this part of the United Kingdom known as Northern Ireland. How is it that your politicians are happy to work with this, work within this cesspit of corruption, work within this criminal gang headquarters, whilst these type of things are going on. So people, am I wrong for saying that beggars belief? Am I wrong for pointing this out? Now, we do see that we've had some fine words from the DUP. We didn't have any words from the UUP. No, we haven't had any words from the UUP with reference what is going on. And I just, it is unbelievable. It really, I find it hard to find words for what it is that I see happening before my very eyes. Now, let's just remind ourselves of a few things before that we play this video, in where that Sinn Fein continue to, in a direct act of provocation, in a calculated way, how that they continue to add insult to the injury of the victims of IRA terrorism. But let's just remind you about who that it is that supports the GAA from within our own community. So there we go. There's Ballinderry Shamrock's GAC's post, and there's wee Robin Swan in the Ulster Unionist Party, who at that game he threw up the ball. They're happy to support the GAA. Didn't we see Submarine Steve, with the Sam Maguire? Sam Maguire was a terrorist. I don't know why many people know that, but Sam Maguire was a terrorist, and there was Steve Aiken happy to hold the cup. And then we remember this man. We're going to take that one down, and we're going to look at this little picture here. And we're going to former GAA official Ryan Feeney set to quit his post with PSNI. So what was it that Ryan Feeney was doing within the PSNI? What was it that he was doing? So former GAA official Ryan Feeney is set to leave his job as head of the PSNI press office. Mr. Feeney, 41, who had served in the role of Director of Strategic Communications. So did I get that right? Did I get right that let's read that again. Former senior GAA official Ryan Feeney is leaving his job as the head, can't go any further, of the PSNI press office. Mr. Feeney, who had served in the role of Director of Strategic Communications for the PSNI. Now let's look, let's explore how deep this corruption goes, how deep that this cesspit of corruption has ingrained itself within society in Northern Ireland, whilst they're your own British Unionist politicians, whilst they have turned a blind eye. Let's look at this man's face. Former GAA official Ryan Feeney is set to quit his post with the PSNI as head of strategic communications. Now, let's just remind people who Ryan Feeney is, which club that Ryan Feeney is attached to. Casement Park, GAA, the Bobby Story funeral. What happened then? Well, the PSNI and the GAA and the Republican Terrorists who were burying Bobby Story, didn't it come out that they were orchestrating the circumstances whereby a consistent message was going to be put out to bluff the community? But hold on. Ryan Feeney. Here we have a GAA man who is head of communications in the PSNI. So, was the head of communications in the PSNI talking to himself, wanting to have his GAA hat on, wanting to have his PSNI head of communications hat on, creating a consistent messaging in order to make out that Republican terrorists, that Bobby Story namely, wasn't given a British state funeral, wasn't having a hierarchy of rights whenever, and let's remember, COVID was around and no one else. People were being turned away. I mean, I had a friend who had to sit in her living room watching her husband of over 60 years marriage get buried on a little laptop. How cruel was that? Whilst these people walked the streets of West Belfast, whilst they left, where did he start off? They came out of GAA, Casement Park, the place that is going to be getting more funding than any other sporting organisation in the history of Northern Ireland. They come out of Casement Park. The flag, the Irish tricolour, was flying at half-mast for Bobby Story in Casement Park. And this is meant to be a sporting organisation. And here we had a high-ranking member of the GAA, who was the head of communications within the PSNI, providing the type of message to you, to I, to everyone else, to the mainstream media, to Nolan, to Crawley, to the BBC, to the ITV. They were providing the type of message that they thought would have suited their own agenda. Now that's how deep this corruption runs. And why isn't it that our own British Unionist politicians are speaking out against this? Because why? Because they've been looking after themselves. They haven't been looking after you. They haven't nipped this in the bud. And this, my friends, is why that we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in March of 2022, because of the unwillingness, the inability, because of the mismanagement of British Unionist politicians which you elect. Let's play this video. What we're going to do, we're not staying for too much longer, but we thought that we needed to talk about this. We thought that this is something that is worth highlighting. And we thought that what we would do is that we will show why that it is that we don't support this Belfast Agreement. We will show we will show why that it is that we say the Belfast Agreement, it is a disguise. A disguise. It is built for appeasement, swindle, and lies. The peace is a farce. The IRA continue to add insult to the injury of their victims. And no one wants to say anything about it. Let's play this video. Let's see what adding insult to the injury of victims look like. And who's doing it? People that are elected into political office. And they are intentionally, they are doing this in a calculated way. They are provoking, and they're persecuting. That's what they're doing. They are persecuting those that they've already made victims. Let's play this.
It's a special and poignant time for Irish Republicans. It is a time when we commemorate the men and women of 1916 and of every generation since who have played their part in the cause of Irish freedom.
And supported by her.
So we're going to bring that back a wee second there. So we're just let's play this again, because I should be commenting as we go on here, just to show you the depths of these people that are offended by everything and are ashamed of nothing. And why are they getting away with this? Why are they being permitted to add insult to the memories of the victims that they've created? Let's play this again. I'll stop and start this as the words that I want to comment on become relevant.
It's a special and poignant time for Irish Republicans. It is a time when we commemorate the men and women of 1916 and of every generation since who have played their part in the cause of Irish freedom.
Okay, so they're commemorating, the people of 1916 and of every generation in the cause of people who played their part in what they call Irish freedom. Now, if that were loyalists that were doing that, I'm saying this for a reason, but if that were, let's say, loyalists that were doing that, and what they were doing, I can tell you of circumstances in where that when there's flags fly on lampposts and it says about, say, UVF 1912, and some people would say that that's historic flags, which is in celebration around the July time of the Army of Carson. And yet these Republicans constantly argue, the Alliance Party constantly argue, the Pan-Nationalist Front constantly argue that that's not allowed. Wasn't there circumstances in where that materials were being removed from people's house? Maybe they had a flag. And what they were saying is that they were items that were glorifying terrorism. But that was only happening on the loudest side of the fence. And we have to actually say these things because there clearly is a hierarchy of rights when it comes to Republicans. So they're glorifying people who murdered your nearest and your dearest. And they're constantly doing this, and they're in government. Now, what is it that makes this wrong on so many levels? They say, this is what they say. They say that the British government has to be held to account. The security services have to be held to account. Dennis Hutchins had to be held to account because that's the government. And the government cannot be corrupt. The government cannot be participating in criminality. That the government has a duty to the citizens of the place in which they govern. Now, that's what they say. And what they say makes the British government, the security services, fair game. What's sauce for the goose is absolutely sauce for the gander, because they're in government, and yet they are glorifying terrorism. Yet they are glorifying the people that murdered and maimed and held this country to ransom for all of my life, people, for all of my life. So what's sauce for the goose has to be sauce for the gander. If that's what they want, if they want to say that a government has to be held to account, then Michelle O'Neill has to be held to account for glorifying terrorism contrary and in contravention to our ministerial code. Why isn't the barristers in the DUP taking this to task? Why aren't they aggressing against this? Why aren't they putting a stop to this? Why is this going on? It's going on because your own DUP and your UUP have consistently done nothing about it. So let's take me back down again and let's play on.
And supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, we
So back to that proclamation that was being read there. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you how that whenever our British Unionist leaders, how that they are swindling us, how that they are not standing up for the things that they should be standing up against, how that they are looking for an easy ride in the media. I'm going to show you people how that these Republicans are doing exactly the same on their own people. How that these people are also charlatans. And you know, what did that man say when he was reading out from the proclamation? He talked about back then, the proclamation of 1916, thereabouts, the years surrounding that. He talked about that they were being supported by their friends in America and their friends in Europe. Listen, what has changed? What has changed? Has anything changed here in 2022? Let's listen to the words of this proclamation and let me show you how that it is that these people are as much a group of charlatans as your DUP, as your UUP, as your mainstream political parties. If you're part of that DUP, if you're part of that UUP, you're no better than them for not standing out and walking away from the things that your leadership is doing in your name. Let's play on.
we declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies to be sovereign and indefeasible.
So there's in the proclamation that they declare the right of the Irish people to be sovereign and have ownership of the land. And then it uses this word called indefeasible. Now, indefeasible, what does that mean? The word indefeasible means that what's in that proclamation, according to that proclamation, cannot be changed. It cannot be subject to change. But if I were to talk to people in the Irish Republic right now who hate, who detest Sinn Fein with a passion, well, they say that Sinn Fein are globalists. They say that Sinn Fein are open the borders, bring everybody in, overburden the services, overburden the schools, create the circumstances where housing, the cost of housing is going through the roof. That's what Sinn Fein are doing. And Sinn Fein are telling their own people that they stand by this proclamation which declares the indefeasible right of the Irish people to be sovereign and have ownership of the Irish Republic. But of course that we know that that's not true, because Sinn Fein have attached themselves to the EU and now they are a vassal of the EU. It's the case whereby that the EU say, you jump, and the Irish government and Sinn Fein have to say, how high would you like us to jump? So these people are absolute charlatans. These people are a disgrace. I tell you what, these people, if I were a Republican, if that was one of my family members that would have been in that hunger strike and would have given their lives for what was and what they thought was a cause, I would be looking at this Sinn Fein leadership today and I would be going, what are you? You're traitors. You're traitors to the cause. Anyway, what I was pointing out there, people, and I thought that it should be done, that these people are no better than your politicians that are meant to be serving and protecting you. What they are doing is they are swindling their own people. So let's go on. Let's go on.
Easter is a poignant time of the year for Irish Republicans across Belfast. It is time when we commemorate and pay tribute to our patriot dead and all those that have lost their lives in pursuit of Irish independence.
So there we have it again, the glorification of terrorism by a man who's an MLA, by a man who's in our government. And I'm just saying, I am just saying that these Sinn Feiners bang on every single day in life when they're talking about collusion and British government. And they say the difference between them and the British government was that they were terrorists. They're not ashamed of their terrorism. But let me clarify, the people that are in the IRA that we can pinpoint that were in the IRA, that were convicted of being in the IRA, of which there are many in that Sinn Fein organisation. I'm not saying the entire Sinn Fein because we don't want labelled. So that's me clarifying things. But here's the thing, that these people continue to say that there's a difference between them and the British government because the government is there to serve and protect all of the people, and they should never be doing things in a way which provokes the people, which adds insult to the injury of the people, which causes the people harm. And yet this is what Jerry Kelly's doing. We heard him saying that he's there to glorify those that have murdered your nearest and your dearest. So there's number two. There's two Sinn Feiners within short succession, which is glorifying terrorism. And yet they're getting away with it. Why is the question? Why are they getting away with it? Why is your British Unionist leaders letting them away with it? Here we go.
I want to also pay respect to the many fine Republicans that we have lost over the last year, including, of course, our late friend and comrade Bobby Story. In every generation since, Republicans have actively resisted this inequality and partition. From 1969, volunteers at Oakley and Ahern fought with huge energy and stamina against the mighty British Army.
So here we go again. 1969 going forward. They fought with huge energy and stamina against the mighty British Army. Let me remind you of some of the things they've done from 1969. Remember that young lad in, was it Abercorn Square in Strabane? The circumstances by which that there was a bomb, and the police had moved the lady with the kid in the pram, and moved, I think the young guy was 5 months old, and moved the baby out of the road of the bomb. The bomb went off, showering glass on that baby, absolutely and utterly cutting that poor baby apart, killing him to death. And that's what Jerry Kelly's talking about. That's the volunteers he's talking about. Why are these people permitted to add insult to the injury of people like, was it Adam Jack or Alan Jack? People will remind me on the live chat. But that's just one of the circumstances in where the children were murdered and maimed by these people. And I remember something else very close to my own home. Little Michelle Bird with their mommy and her daddy going to buy a wreath for her granda. An IRA bomb was dropped in Frizzell's fresh fish shop on the Shankill Road, killing young Michelle Bird to death. Leanne Murray, another child, also killed in that bomb. This is who they're glorifying. Now, here's the thing, people. Here is the thing. And this is very, very important. Why should any British Unionists be expected to reconcile with that whenever they continue to add insult to the injury of the victims, whenever that they have no remorse? How could you ever reconcile with that? How can your British Unionist leaders work with that? Why are your British Unionist leaders working with that? Let's play on.
Left with no other choice. We are forever indebted to their sacrifice. What bonded them together as comrades, as revolutionaries, was a profound love of Ireland and of its people. What made them extraordinary was that they had a vision of a new Ireland and were prepared to fight for it. In our recent history, the popular uprising of 1969 against the Orange State, the IRA cessation of military activity in the...
Here we go again, an uprising against the Orange State, in which in Abercorn Square, that little guy, Adam Jack, was showered with glass, killing that young child, that 5-month-old child, to death. And these people are rewriting history as if they're Mother fucking Teresa. Excuse me for saying that, but that's how serious this is. And they're being permitted to get away with it. Let's play on.
1990s, followed by the Good Friday Agreement of 98, are all watershed moments. As was the 1981 hunger strike, and on this, the 40th anniversary, we remember the hunger strikers with immense pride and honour. In 2021, we are now in another defining moment of change for our nation. The conversation on a united Ireland is now at the centre of political discourse across the island. We are in government in the north and are providing the most radical, Republican and credible alternative to the failed government in the south.
We are in government in the north and we're providing a radical alternative to the government in the south. Here, I tell you what, you don't know how true those words are, Jerry Kelly. Radical is an understatement. Let's play on.
We remain guided by the noble ideals of the 1916 leaders, but we move forward in the context of 2021. Imagine Sinn Fein being the largest party in the north, with Michelle O'Neill as the First Minister.
Imagine Michelle O'Neill as the First Minister. Well, she's joint First Minister right now, is the truth of the matter, and that's, we'll hand that to the DUP for providing the circumstances in where that could actually happen. But imagine Michelle O'Neill actually being in charge of the government here and Mary Lou in charge there. Well, if that happens, that's really down to British Unionism. That's down to your leaders. That's down to the disconnect that the DUP and the UUP will have caused. Isn't it a godsend that we actually have the TUV in order that we do not have to vote for these parasites ever again. Parasites like Sinn Fein, I may add, because what Sinn Fein are to a lot of people in their own community, ordinary decent people, is that's what they are. They are absolute and utter charlatans, parasites who are they say things with a straight face, and yet they're selling their own people out. Whatever happened to the indefeasible right of the Irish people to be sovereign and have ownership of the land? Whenever Ireland doesn't belong to the Irish anymore, Ireland has been handed on to the EU. Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is a vassal state of the EU. And these people can say this with a straight face whilst they read the words of that proclamation. I don't know. Let's play on.
And with Mary Lou MacDonald as the Taoiseach. This is within our grasp. Join us in achieving that and shaping a united Ireland. Let us all draw from the reservoir of courage of our fallen comrades.
Oh, there. Let us all draw from the reservoir of courage from our fallen comrades. So let's get this down before before anybody's sick, is the truth. So removing that from the studio. So anyway, people, I think you get the picture. And I think what we wanted to do is we wanted just to break that down. And it's more of an exercise to keep these things flowing, to keep the videos being done, to document the course of history in terms of what it is that the Shinners, what it is that these are those that are meant to be First Minister, Joint First Minister in Northern Ireland, how that it is that in one breath, what they do is they claim that the British government are different because they were the government and they have to be held to account. Well, now that you're the government, Michelle O'Neill, by the same token, you have to be held to account. And I demand, and I hope that everybody in this channel demands, that Jeffrey Donaldson, that Mug Beatty, that they would begin holding these people to account. And they might say that they can do nothing about it. They can do nothing about it. Well, if they can do nothing about it, they shouldn't be part of it. They should walk away until the circumstances are created in where that they can do something about it. Because what this is doing, what this has done, is this has totally corrupted politics in Northern Ireland. This has totally corrupted democracy in Northern Ireland. Democracy is dead, people. Democracy is dead. If you voted for Brexit, if you voted in the Brexit referendum, you were not delivered your right to leave the EU. You're still part of the EU, and all because of the threat of Republican violence. Yet again, I rest my case. People, thanks very much for coming along to the channel. Thanks for giving us the support that you continuously give us here at Restore. And again, before that I close, I'm just going to remind people one more time, we're going to be playing this out with a little song or two. And I want to just ask people yet again, if you could help with our PayPal in the British Unionist People's Voice, also in Restore UK, that's on the YouTube channel, and also on Restore UK, that's on the Facebook. And if you can click on that link, if you can put a few pounds in, well, it's going to help with what it is that we do. So in closing, whenever we're playing this out with a few things, what I would like you to do is I would like to leave your messages in the live chat with reference what it is that you've just seen. I would like to, on behalf of the Restore channel, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming along consistently, for supporting us, for putting money into the channel as and when, because if it wasn't for you people, it would be, well, we wouldn't be the channel that we actually are. So again, leave your messages in the live chat with reference. Are you looking forward to Good Friday and going and protest at this Belfast appeasement, which permits the circumstances in where Republicans are allowed to glorify terrorism? And you tell me that that's right, that your government has a private terrorist army outside the door to which they glorify. That can never be right. Can never be right. And it needs to stop. And if the politicians that I elect want to let this continue, well, we need to elect more politicians. And in fact, that's what we're going to do, people. We just have to keep pressing home the inactions, the unwillingness, the inability of the politicians that we elect to serve and protect us and to do the right thing and to ensure that the victims would not have the insult added to their injury, which Republicans do day in daily, using their positions in government to make high impact. People, thanks very much. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Going off here to, yes, I'm going to put this up by Dave Mack. Nolan Live, 10:45. Edwin Pooch is going to be on it tonight. Yeah, so we'll go off and we'll do that there. Thanks very much. So leave your messages in the live chat as we play us out. I'm going to go through the live chat. I'm going to pop up again little, messages of support to this channel from the people that are here. The numbers have stayed really, really high. Again, if you can help us, please do. And yep, good man, Robert. Looking forward to protesting. So am I, Robert. You're going to be part of history, and you make no mistake about it. Anyone that turns up at Stormont on Good Friday to protest against the very fact that the Belfast Agreement, it is a disguise and it doesn't work for Belfast, for British Unionists. Each and every person, you will not, put it like this, you'll be really glad that you turned up and you made that history. Thanks once again. Thank you. And playing us out with a little song. And I'm looking for an appropriate song, given that we were talking about the terrorism, given that we were talking about the fact that the terrorism, well, the terrorists, well, they have no, they're, what is it they say? They are offended by everything and ashamed of absolutely nothing. So I'm looking for a little video clip, just actually showing people on the way out who the terrorists are. Thanks very much for coming along. Really appreciate it. And what I'm going to be doing, people, is I'm going to be popping up some of the live chat into the screen as we play out. Looking forward to next week. Looking forward to you supporting us. And please, if you can help us, stick a few pounds into the PayPal account. Thanks very much once again. Until the next time, hopefully next week. In fact, we've already made some requests. It'll be another new face in Unionist politics here in Northern Ireland, just really giving us the reasons as to why that this new face would put themselves above the parapet in order to offer themselves to serve and protect you. Good night, people. Thanks very much for coming along. Restore the years that the destabilizers have taken. Restore. Night.
They say the skies of Lebanon are burning, those mighty cedars bleed in the heat. They're showing pictures on the television, women, children dying in the street. And we're still at it in our own place, still trying to reach the future through the past, still trying to carve tomorrow from a tombstone. But hey, don't listen to me, 'cause this wasn't meant to be no sad song. I've heard too much of them before. Right now I only wanna be here with you until the morning dew comes falling. Yeah. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand, and in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. They're raising banners over by the markets, whitewashing slogans on our shipyard walls, witch doctors praying for a mighty showdown. There's no way our holy flag is gonna fall. Up here we sacrifice our children, run our dreams of yesterday, and teach them dying will lead us into glory. But hey, don't listen to me, this wasn't meant to be no sad song. I've sung too much of them before. Right now I only wanna be here with you until the morning dew comes falling. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand. And in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand. And in the evening when the sun goes down, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. I wanna take you to the island, trace your footprints in the sand. And in the evening when there's no one around, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean. And in the evening when there's no one around, we'll make love to the sound of the ocean.
Whilst people are focusing on young people ratting in Belfast, they really should be focusing on this building here. This building and the institutions that surround it are occupied by the biggest criminal gang in Europe. And that is the elephant in the room. That is the elephant in the room that no one is speaking of right now. This criminal gang occupies a place in where they can destroy Northern Ireland, and where they can use their privileged position to destabilise ordinary people, ordinary citizens in Northern Ireland, whereby they can set back reconciliation for decades. And who is it that holds them there? Who is it that has put them in place? Who is it that stands beside them and ensures that they can stay in place? Well, that's our own DUP. That's our own British Unionist politicians that we elected, that we put in power. We're coming down towards a statue of the founding father of Northern Ireland, in the year of our centenary, in the year where we are 100 years old. What is actually happening is that the criminal gang that occupies the house on the hill, they are destroying us. And there's only one meaningful proactive protest that we can make right now. And that's not up to our young people to make that protest. That's not up to young people who have been discriminated against, who have been separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, and who have had their democracy denied because of the threat of violence from this criminal gang. It's not up to the young people to fight this battle. It's up to our own political leaders, and they're failing right now. And it's because of the failure of politics that we find ourselves in this unpalatable situation.
We did join Europe to be swallowed up in some bureaucratic conglomerate where it's Euro this and Euro that, and forget about being British. We're British, and we're proud of it. Proud of our traditions, proud of our national character,